and welcome to WNHH FM's Dateline New Haven. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make our community tick. Nowhere does New Haven tick more than on the New Haven Green. And the people here today in the WNHH studio have a lot to do with keeping it ticking and with a Wake Up the Green Festival, which is on the horizon. Say good morning to Judge Janet Arterton and David Newton of the Proprietors of the Green, Jerry Moss of Friends of the Green, Christy of the, not Haas anymore, right? I'm sorry. Still Haas. Okay, the former person who kept the Green in good shape in other city parks and now is a consultant working with the Green. And the one and only Andy Wolf, one of our favorite returning presences here on WNHH. Andy is the city's arts and culture czar. As usual, he has a lot of plans up his sleeve, both on the green and off, to keep us busy as the weather warms up. Well, thanks for coming in, everybody. I tell you, the green is one of the great things about New Haven, what we all fall in love with first when we come to live in New Haven, especially in the winter. Actually, during summer, too, when there are a lot of great concerts. But so I want to ask you, I guess we're here partly today because of Wake Up the Green Festival. Janet Arterton, do you want to tell us what you folks have in mind for when is this festival and what's it all about?
It is.
And I'll ask you to get real close to the mic, like you're almost touching it.
It is this Saturday, May 4, and it will include activities and interests for everyone, because that's what the New Haven Green is all about anyhow. It'll start at 9 a.m. with the cleanup and the walk around the green.
So at 9 o'clock, you're inviting people to help pick up trash on the green and clean it up.
Right, exactly. And Jerry Ma is Queen of Trash.
All right, Queen of Trash.
And
I think I have some of your albums. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is true.
You and Madonna.
And then there at 10 o'clock is going to be the Powder House Day reenactment, which is done regularly in New Haven.
And that's the guys in their old Revolutionary War uniforms, right? The Governor's Foot Guard.
They probably aren't so old. They probably are replicas, but yes. And they are coming to demand the keys to the Powder House.
What are you going to say?
They're going to ask the mayor.
Oh, okay. What's the mayor going to say?
She will have to decide whether to turn the keys over, as was first done with Benedict Arnold.
Before he turned to the other side.
That's true.
Now, why was Benedict Arnold asking for the keys to the Powder House?
The militia of New Haven wanted to go and join the forces at Ticonderoga, but they didn't have any ammunition.
So
I think the man to tell you this has just joined us.
So Richard Greenblatt, is it? Grinold. All right, Richard, I'm going to get real close to the mic. Thanks for coming in uniform. You can see him there on Facebook Live. You're a member, I take it, of the Governor's Foot Guard.
Yeah, I'm the 67th Commandant of the 2nd Company Governor's Foot Guard, going back to 1775.
Wow. So now can you just tell us briefly what the Governor's Foot Guard is and why people, Janet just told us about this reenactment of a key part in our city's history that took place on the Green, that's going to take place on Saturday at the Wake Up the Green Day. What exactly is Governor's Foot Guard, besides the group that wears really wonderful uniforms?
Okay.
And I'll get close to the mic if you can.
The state of Connecticut maintains 4 organized militia units that go back to the 1700s. The reason there's 2 foot guards and 2 horse guards. The reason there's 2 of each, there used to be 2 capitals of Connecticut.
Right.
From 1700 to 1873, both Hartford and New Haven shared being capitals. We were assigned to protect the legislature and the governor early on. We were talking about Powder House Day, which we're reenacting on May 4th, where we demand the keys to the powder.
Now, do you usually what answer do you usually get?
We always get a yes.
And what do you do with the key?
We have the actual keys, but as symbolic, I hand them off to the adjutant as happened during that time period. But we have in our museum, which is currently being refurbished in Branford, the actual keys that were given. Anyway, to get back to your original question of what do, we have a twofold purpose. One, we preserve the history and military traditions of the state of Connecticut, primarily through parades, ceremonial color guards, educational decals, etc. We also exist as a backup to the Connecticut Military Department, which we're part of. And one of the exciting projects we're doing right now is we're training to construct mobile field hospital units so that in case of an emergency that can be deployed, in case of a tornado.
So is it fair to say
winter.
you're partly historic preservation, partly service group?
That's correct.
So what does it feel like to participate in this, Richard? When you get out in uniform, you're reenacting a part of our history, you're part of a community event. Why do you do it, and what do you think when you're done with it? What do you tell yourself about why it was worth it?
Well, I've always had a profound sense of history and the importance of it, but I also feel very strongly in the community service that we provide. When I first joined 38 years ago, I never thought I would be the commandant. But here I am, like I said, the 67th. And as was mentioned earlier, our first commandant happened to be Benedict Arnold. One of our other famous commandants was James Hillhouse.
Mm. So, Janet Arterton, this is a militia. Can I sneak a legal question in on you that you're very happy not to answer if you don't want to? Because you are a judge, so I know there are a lot of things you can't comment on.
Try me.
Okay. Does the Second Amendment cover anyone except these guys?
Yes, and that we will leave in its full glory and exploration to not only the Heller decision from the Supreme Court, but whatever it chooses to do in the future.
And
with
it's going to be
respect
revisiting this question quite a bit.
It will be, because there are many aspects of its contours and its limitations that are yet undefined.
As we look at the original meaning of the Constitution, we're trying to figure out what it means to have a militia that has the right to bear arms.
There is a whole raft of amicus briefs in the Heller case that explored the history and the exploration and the meaning of militia as originally written. And I welcome your listeners to go and read that.
Do you think that one day we'll have a decision that you'll be writing that helps this renewed debate about how we define militias for the right to bear arms?
We have a wonderful thing called random assignment of cases. And whatever case you get, you do the best you can on it. And if this is the case you get, you do the best you can on it.
I'm just going to close this discussion by saying I'm voting for you to get the next case on this question. Then I'll just leave it at that. 11 o'clock on Saturday, we're going to have the militia.
No, 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. With
10
the right to
o'clock.
bear arms and the right to get the key to the powerhouse. We're talking about the Wake Up the Green event that's going to take place this Saturday on the Green. Do you want to tell us a little more about what's going on?
I do, because this is the second year that we have done it. It is the labor of many, many people, headed up by our chief, Christy Haas Degluski, who can mobilize everyone and anyone to accomplish what needs to be done.
And more broadly, you're trying to get people more connected with the Green, right? The Proprietors is a self-perpetuating group that owns the land and controls the land, but contracts with the city to manage it, correct?
Almost.
Okay.
The New Haven Green, like the Foot Guard, dates way back. Ours dates back to the original settlers of the New Haven Green, when it was the common area for all of those settlers to use for the purposes that they designated. And so it's unusual because it has the unaltered continuation as privately owned land that is held in trust for the public interest by the committee of the proprietors.
So like Richard, who's playing a role, what number again are you coming down?
I'm the 67th.
So, John, you fell in a line of people who who basically have been tasked with a role, that private role in the public interest since we had New Haven. When you think about your role, or you, David Newton, on the group, how do you think about it? How do you think about your responsibility to New Haven in terms of how we're dealing with our central square?
Well, our responsibility is to both respect the tradition of the Green, and it's really its sacred nature. It's been everything from a pasture to a burial ground, to a parade ground, and as of late, as you well know, a gathering place for a variety of different activities, from arts and ideas to just simply wandering through the space. So it is a unique place, both because of its history and also because it does serve that purpose of bringing together the community. And Wake Up the Green is just another example of trying to.
Well, looking historically,
Mm-hmm.
do you think there are as many people in a community, or as much of an ethic in a community as there used to be, for the idea that people donate their time for the public good, pure and simple, and take responsibility, leadership? That doesn't mean getting elected to office, doesn't mean hired for money to do a job, but this whole separate category of people who are looking out for the public interest by assuming a role that cuts into their personal life and looks out for public interest.
I'm maybe not the best person to ask that, Paul, because I serve on, right now, 7 not-for-profit boards. So I think the answer to your question is yes. There are a number of people in New Haven, and certainly given the number of service organizations, not-for-profit organizations in New Haven, I think that service ethic runs wide and deep within our community.
And you're going to hear a lot about that in the next 2 days, because it's the Great Give, run by the Community Foundation of Greater New Haven, where dozens of groups are raising money all in one day together. And you're going to meet a lot of them, because we do a radiothon every year where the groups come in and do a poem or sing a song and then make their pitch and hear about how great they are. And we all do that together. So, Jerry Moss, you are at one of the churches on the Green, and you're Friends of the Green. You're in a group called Friends of the Green. One of the jobs we just talked about, in which people donate their time for a public good. What exactly do the Friends of the Green do, and what are you going to be doing this weekend as part of this event?
Friends of the Green organizes 6 to 8 Clean the Greens on Saturday mornings throughout the year. And this Saturday, we will be meeting at 9 a.m. to pick up the litter, mostly the small litter, cigarette butts, and small pieces of trash that seem to remain on the green. And we're pretty excited. We also had a Clean the Green last Saturday with a large group from Southern Connecticut State University for their big event. It was very productive and very fulfilling.
So why do you do it?
Why? Friends of the Green is one of the 2 urban ministries at Trinity Episcopal Church, right on the corner of Chapel and Temple. And we do it because we want to honor and preserve this beautiful historic place.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, Andy Wolf, your job is to make fun things happen in New Haven that matter, right? Good way to put it?
With
no money.
Yeah, we love fun with no money.
Debit card at zero. Yeah, okay. And a lot of what you do is on the Green. So, for instance, this weekend, this summer, you always have your opera festival. You have arts and ideas. How does this week's Wake Up the Green festival fit in with what you've been trying to do as arts and cultures are for the city, and with what the state's now trying to do with making arts a central part of economic development?
Yeah, one of the takeaways from today's radio show is really about tradition and history. And I think under Mayor Harp, we've really focused on preserving, protecting, and advancing a sense of civic pride of place and spiritual uplift. Under our new governor, who I've had the pleasure of meeting, who is a happy warrior, he also is intent on getting the various communities across Connecticut to cooperate. So I think this is a wonderful way to expand our reach, to make this much more of a civic moment of pride for the entire region.
Well, I just remember coming to New Haven in 1978 when the Green wasn't as in good shape, which immediately is what I first fell in love with here. The kinds of different people of all walks of life who gather there. It's a safe place, and all sorts of fun stuff happens on it. Now, you specifically create a lot of events there. Like when you decided to do an annual opera festival, that's really, you hit out of the park. You get all kinds of people, different walks of life. They're loving art, pizza. Why did you do it on the Green?
Well, the Green is that sacred place that is about the memory of our city, really. And opera has a very special meaning in terms of telling stories of unique memory across the world. This year, we are expanding the reach, and we're actually going out to Bishop Farms, where we are reenacting Woodstock at 50.
Really?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
We are one of 14 communities across the United States to be selected for a commemorative concert to Woodstock.
With enough porta potties.
And we're going to
And traffic control.
We're lucky because Bishop Farms knows how to stage a big event.
Are you getting State Senator George Logan to light his guitar on fire when he does his Hendrix cover band?
That's a good one, but
You got to have him.
We're very pleased because we're combining it with the Shoreline Alliance, and there will also be an expo for the environment throughout the day in the spirit of what happened 50 years ago in upstate New York. So that is something to look forward to on July 14th. For the first time, we're going outside of New Haven.
Little urban-suburban cooperation.
To really demonstrate that we are an ecosystem, and we're going to cooperate like never before going forward.
All right. And Judy Beller, I'm sorry if I say your name wrong, says, way to go, Jerry. Thanks for listening, Judy. And you're listening to Dateline New Haven on WNHH FM. You're home for community radio at 103.5 FM. And we got the whole posse in here to talk about what's happening with the New Haven Green and a great Wake Up the Green Festival coming this Saturday with cleanups and activities and historical reenactments going all day, but also longer term. You know, we got Christy Haas-Dugleski. Okay, is in our office, and she spent a lot of years as a person who made things happen at the City Parks Department. She retired, and now you've been hired by the proprietors to make the green nicer. And I know we've done this every couple of decades. 1988, we had the big campaign to beautify the green and made that corner very nice where the fountains are, and we got the bus shelters that are really much nicer places to hang out than the old ones. But I guess you're in part of a new beautification campaign right now, Christy, that you're doing for them. Could you let us know a little bit about what that is, not just this weekend, but what kind of plantings you're doing and how's the green going to look nicer? All right. we got a full house here today.
You know, while she's arranging herself, let me note that the dogwoods, the beautiful alley of dogwoods on the Upper Green, has just started to bloom, following the beautiful alley on the other side of the cherry trees that have now finished their blooming. And that is a really important part of recent beautification and is a huge contribution that the Garden Club has made. But
also, how do we think about the two greens differently? They call it the Upper Green and the Lower Green, which I always found weird because I think it's the Eastern Green and the Western Green, right? I mean, you're talking about the part that's closer to Yale, which is not as busy. People hang out there a lot. It's kind of solitude or on the benches under trees. And then you have the big, up to tens of thousands of people go to events on the part that has the flagpole and the stage. I assume that's kind of deliberate how we think of our two halves of a brain.
If we didn't have Temple Street dividing it, it might not be quite as acute. But we do think of the Upper Green as a more tranquil, contemplative space.
That's what I was trying to say, yeah.
And the Lower Green as the more active space. But Christy has spearheaded all sorts of signs of spring that we are hoping will either show up by the time Wake Up the Green or shortly thereafter.
Yes, we at the direction of the proprietors who clearly have an interest in beautifying and making the green more vibrant. We began, I think, 3 years ago now, planting 2,000 daffodil bulbs a year.
2,000 daffodil bulbs.
Yep,
okay.
And we've had help from the Parks Department and Sound School and Town Green Special Services District and the Friends of the Green, all out there helping us plant all kinds of bulbs, hoping to get some bright color into the green. Clearly, there's a plan by this proprietor group to really move forward with better signage, with cleaner and nicer facilities. So there's a lot of things coming.
What kind of facilities?
Well, just in terms of replacing some of the working on the sidewalks, working on the walkways, and obviously much more than that as we move forward.
I got to tell you that I think the green is more beautiful than it's ever been. So I'm looking forward to this. Okay. Andy Wolf, one of your favorite ideas of mine you ever had when you got here was to get these new kind of loos on the green. Remember that? You were trying to find people to get what? Tell me all about them, like artistic and all that.
Well, it's still concept, and it is a dream of mine to demonstrate that New Haven has its own distinctive architecture. And we welcome, Paul, which most of the listeners, most of the residents don't realize, now about 1.8 million visitors a year. The corner of High and Chapel is our busiest corner because of our museums.
Okay.
And it is just growing. And last week we had the pleasure of Bloomberg naming us one of the top 3 cities for millennials to move to in the United States.
We beat out Madison, Wisconsin.
We did.
I'm still working that one out, but I think it's great.
all I know is the emails I received were like, wow, And this is the goal, is to create the next generation of thought leaders and change agents
Hmm.
who bring with them their own creative energy. And to that end, we will still be supporting our neighborhood music festivals throughout the parks, continuing with the films on the green throughout the city. And
Are we still going to have concerts after Arts and Ideas is over?
yes, July.
And Arts and Ideas is an embrace of that green because the free events take place there. We have concerts during the week of local bands at night. I know Tabiza is going to be at one of the big concerts
And-
kicking it off.
Right. This year better than ever.
And so what is going to be different this year about the green with Arts and Ideas? What are we,
No, I just think that the style that has evolved in terms of the different venues and the way it looks is really world class.
Mhm. And you got to keep it fresh. You have something going on that
Every
long.
year. Every year.
So what about the basic concept of the green? Why is it important that we have this green entrusted to you folks? What is the important? You talked about meeting place, but why is it so important to have this special care put into protecting the green and stewardship?
It's the heart of the city.
Mhm.
It has always been the heart of the city. It's the people's concepts and visions for it vary, sometimes conflict. Our work is to try to balance out those ideas and those visions while at the same time protecting what is really critical about this urban bucolic oasis, and that is the health of the trees,
Mm.
the plantings. We're happy to say that we are at least neck and neck with Dutch elm disease. We might be a little bit ahead of it. We have 4 more new elms that will be planted imminently. The others have all been appropriately inoculated. We think we're good on that one. We also are going to be uplighting some of the big, gorgeous trees on the upper
Christy,
green.
you were telling me about that. Tell me what it means to uplight. I mean, does that mean you have bright lights on the ground level that put them in stark relief?
Slightly under the ground, but projecting up under the tree so as to catch the beautiful artistic architecture of those trees with a soft light. We have one that is in operation right now, our pilot tree. And it has been up, it has survived the winter.
All right.
It appears as if the wiring is right, and we have now on order and in the works sufficient fixtures for 3 more trees. We've picked which ones those will be, and then we'll move on and do more as appears appropriate, but it's going to make the upper green have a very nice, soft life and light of its own, both in summer and winter, and maybe particularly in winter when the snow and the ice
those are
is
amazing.
illustrated.
I
It
think
should be just
And that's
amazing.
one of my favorite. You know, we talked about the contemplative nature of the upper green. It just starts every Passover we read Mary Oliver poems. She has this amazing one about tree work this year and how that you stop and look at the tree and you think about so much, you connect to the world around you, but you also think the role the tree plays to stop and collect the light and have you pause what you're doing and thinking about your role in the world and what you're receiving in addition to what you're moving around and doing. So it sounds like the uplighting is going to help some Mary Oliver pioneers appreciate the upper green.
I think maybe so. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Oh, I think, and Cassandra Rodriguez says, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Cassandra. Thanks for listening. Linda Pinsky writes, Jerry, so proud of you. I anoint you Ms. New Haven Green. Long live the grass. So you talked, you folks, about the mission of preserving the goals of the green. I know that in the last century, in the second half, the proprietor stopped the plan to build an underground garage at the green, which I'm just thinking with climate change, that might not have been the best idea. But I mean, but that was more about commercialization, correct? And hasn't there been an ongoing debate for the centuries about how much commercial activity, if any, should take place on the green? And I believe it was about 8 years ago, the proprietors experimented with having some kind of commerce. Because right now you allow it during festivals on Temple Street, which might not technically be the green, but you don't allow it on the grass.
So we have the City Seed Farmers Market, which has now been doing this for,
Right on the lower green
for 3 years. And that seems to be successful and it harkens back to markets on the green.
Mhm.
We will have food trucks at Wake Up the Green.
On Temple Street, right? You're not going to wreck the grass.
No, where is it? Where are they?
Stone Dust Path on the lower grade.
Oh, Stone, okay.
parallel. We're not sure exactly.
So how did you make this decision? You've tiptoed into commerce. It's worked. How does that fit into the larger debate of how much commerce you want to have on the green?
It's a tiptoe into seeing what it means and what the consequences are, so that you don't do anything that you regret later. You do it in a very organized, staged way. And maybe you turn back because you say, this is enough, or, well, that didn't work. And so we're trying to see what is consistent with this idea of your urban oasis, but your desire to have the green used by all the neighborhoods, all the communities. We're hopeful that Wake Up the Green will light that spark. We're going to be having the Hartford Hot Several Brass Band. We're going to be having a book signing by the authors of Hidden History of New Haven. We're going to be having yoga class. Paul, you've got to come. Tai Chi.
Not a big yoga person.
We're going to have Mayor Harp, followed by will be making remarks, and the Amistad High School Band will march and celebrate spring. We'll have Tai Chi. We're going to have the so-and-so players teach everyone to do the salty rag folk dance.
Ooh.
Christy's going to lead that.
Is that true, Christy? Or did she just
Yes,
put you on the
my
spot?
sister and I did it as a child, so I got.
You did the salty rag dance as a
Salty
child?
dog rag. Oh, all my life.
What is it?
It's a round dance, like a square dance, but a round dance, and it's very old-fashioned folk music. Ann Calabrese actually is planning on dancing it with us, and we're
Wow.
hoping she gets there.
We will have the Yale Swing Blues and Fusion Club. We're going to have horse carriage rides. We're going to have a petting zoo, a kids zone, kids woodcrafts, plants and sales, because this is the time for gardeners to delight. Have a hoopla zone, a story time that the library is going to run. And in case of rain, we will be in City Hall.
All right. And Linda Pinsky asked, do you have a crafts fair on the green?
At this point,
Yeah.
Not during this. We do have a marketplace in this. The Trinity Church is going to be doing a marketplace. East Street Arts will be doing theirs. They did last year. They'll be selling their wares on the green, as will Growers from Edgerton Park. He'll be bringing plants and handcrafts.
Sounds like a great day.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
And I just think about all the different kinds of events. People do claim the green is their own, whether it's big political rallies. We had the May Day rally in 70. Bernie Sanders had the biggest rally since May Day in 2016 when he ran. You have the church people give out the free meals on the green on Sunday. You have, every day on the green, you just have every walk of life there.
And after Wake Up the Green, the following week, we will start a series of Friday noon pop-up performances.
Which you started last summer, right?
That's right. And
Now, the reason, you did that in response. So, as Jen Hart and the other folks here, we're talking about the New Haven Green and its next chapter here on WNHH-FM's Dateline New Haven. You talked about how it was before last summer that this new series of proposals started with the plantings, with the events. But there was a lot of focus put on the proprietors and the stewardship of the green after the K2, not overdoses, but the string last summer of one day when a lot of people went to the hospital. And it shed light on the fact there are corners of the green where different kinds of drugs are used. And I was on the green that day, and what struck me the most was that to the outside world, it seemed like it was this dangerous place. But even while it was going on, it was still a place where everybody was just doing stuff. I'm talking less than 100 feet from where people were being loaded into ambulances. There was the City Seed a farmer's market going on. I went to someone who was ordering a health smoothie. Acai. And I said, do you see over there that all these people go in the hospital from drug overdoses? She said, no, she wasn't bothered. And every day we walk by, and we're not, on the one hand, we're not hidden from the reality of the difference of a city. But I think what got lost in all that was that it's not this dangerous, intimidating place. It's kind of interesting how we all kind of learn to live together. But I'm curious what you took from it, Janet. The spotlight was put on you. They said, here are these proprietors that we never see but control the central part of our city. We're mad at you that this happened and that this activity takes place every day. We want a response. So what was your response, and what did it make you think about your role?
Well, obviously, at the moment, it was profoundly sad because it was such a negative cast. It was temporary. It did illustrate, however, that sectors of the community needed to come together and needed to be involved in treatment for people with addictions, policing for the green to ensure that of all the activities that we encourage, drug trafficking is not one, and to make that a positive place. And that's really why the pop-up performances immediately after that said, no, this is a place of positive enjoyment. Come and join. And that includes everybody.
All right. And how'd it go the first year around?
Well, it really went well.
I remember you had Bergamos there, right?
Yes. I think they're going to be back. They are simply wonderful. And the sound of their drums draws people from blocks away to come and see what is going on the green.
Now, how would people get involved with the efforts you're doing on the green? Either with your great Jerry or Andy with events you have for the summer or with the proprietors. If you could just take turns telling our listeners how you'd like them to get involved and contact you, in addition to this weekend's event.
We are very happy to receive volunteers at any of our cleanups. The New Haven Promise has actually listed us as a seasonal place for students to volunteer to fulfill their community service. For the New Haven Promise, I had a wonderful young man from Wilbur Cross on this past Saturday join us, and I've had students from many different schools join us in the past. You can follow us on Facebook, Friends of the Green New Haven. We also have an Instagram, Friends of the Green New Haven. And
so they can find you there, message you.
Absolutely.
And Andy, what are you doing with outreach in terms of events taking place this summer on the green and how people get involved?
Yeah, I mean, we're not totally green-centric this summer. We're using Temple Street Court. We're in the city parks.
That's that new area you kind of fixed up between when you cut across the Schubert from Temple across from the Omni.
And more improvements to come. It's a gem of a pocket park. And I think what the tree and the lighting and the metaphors we've heard this morning indicate is that there's a new urbanism taking place in New Haven where there is a distinctiveness that we can call all our own, but it also is being recognized far and wide. So for us, the biggest problem is how to disseminate the message of what's going on in New Haven because there's so much. Last week alone with the Cherry Blossom Festival, working with Christy on this international Tai Chi, which was approached by City Hall, and that is amazing to have this experience come to the green. It's so in harmony with what the green represents. So we have been continuing our efforts to improve infonewhaven.com as a one-stop source for people to really find out. When we've been on the show together, Paul, we talk about what's coming up. We've got The King and I this weekend.
Where's that?
At the Schubert. Beautiful production. We've got A Doll's House coming to Long Wharf. We've got Mahler by the New Haven Symphony, which will be the final concert of Maestro William Boughton.
So during the day, we're going to go to Wake Up New Haven. And then at night, we're going to choose among the Schubert and Long Wharf and Woolsey.
And the theme song can be Getting to Know You.
And how do they get to know the proprietors and your efforts, Christy? How do you want people to?
Hopefully they will know the proprietors by the results of our work, by the coordination that I think has been fomented through us of groups to encourage them to be active on the green. Further outreach is needed, encouraged, and will be a great asset to all the neighborhoods and communities.
And do you have a website or anything like that? I thought you started I thought you did.
It is not quite active yet.
Okay. It's okay. You've been around for centuries. You're allowed to.
Well,
David, tell us about it.
No, Paul, to that point, yes, let's just say it's evolving. Our social media platform is trying to catch up with the rest of the activities.
Well, I say don't rush because one of the greatest gifts in life now is not to be beholden to social media. But to be out in person
we
on the
have
green.
not fallen into that trap as of yet. But we want to at least be able to communicate with people who communicate that way, such as your listeners right now on Facebook, so that they can find us. There's this notion that we're some sort of a secret organization. We're not. You can find us on the city website. They provide names. So yeah, we'd like people to be more aware of what we do and how we go about doing it, and there'll probably be a variety of ways to help people like Christy and us think about things to do on the green. We're always interested in good ideas.
And Richard, do you want people to be involved with the foot guard? Things for them to do? How they reach you?
Yes, certainly. We are always looking for men and women, both to serve in the rifle company, our band, our field music, and in our support staff. We have a website, www.footguard.org, or you can connect with us at Facebook. We have the Friends of the Second Company Governor's Foot Guard, and you can also contact us through the executive branch of the State of Connecticut website. Go to the military department, and then under there you'll see all 4 organized militia units and how to contact them. For example, if you'd rather ride horses, I can't understand why, but a lot of people do. There's 2 horse guard units. They're always looking for volunteers.
Okay.
Last night we were at an event at Hartford with the first company, so I know all 4 units are looking for volunteers right now.
All right, another one of our listeners writes saying we should have a cultural food day. We need to spread diversity, acceptance, what better way than food? Yum. Before I let you folks go, and thanks for filling us in. Oh, Andy, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say to that point,
Taste New
Paul,
Haven?
well, actually, Sister Cities.
Okay.
We're planning a very big rollout next year for a taste of our 8 Sister Cities specialty dishes.
That's a great idea.
And that will be a front and center objective of ours. And Paul, we talked about history and longevity. What I'd like to bring up to the audience is that last week New Haven celebrated 381 years of
That's right.
innovation.
For the last
tradition.
6 years, we've started having a birthday celebration every year.
And
at
our
City Hall.
City Spirit Award winners included the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce, turning 225 years this year. Not as old as the Foot Guard, but George Washington was president at that time. We were one of the first 3.
Oh.
Southern Connecticut, 125 years. New Haven Symphony, 125 years. Yale Bands, 100 years. And I wanted to close because longevity for me was summed up by our longest serving city employee, who Mayor Harp recognized. She is a librarian at the Ives Library, and I didn't have to really research much because her own words said it all. It's just a short quote that I wanted your listeners to hear. And this comes from Marianne Corolla, 52 years of distinguished public service. And Marianne writes, over the years, I have loved helping the youth of all of New Haven's diverse neighborhoods, being thanked by them years later when they bring in their own children into the library for assistance and are able to say, this is the librarian who helped me when I was your age, is a truly special moment.
All right. And before I get to the last question, David lifted up the new book about the hidden history. You want to do a quick plug for that, David? Let people know what you're rolling in.
Actually, I'll do the plug
All right,
if I
Joe,
may.
let's hear
Thank you,
about it.
Paul. As Janet mentioned, we also have a book talk on the Green Saturday at 1:30. It will be at Trinity Episcopal Church, and it's a newly published book by Kathleen Hubbard and Albertus Magnus faculty Robert Hubbard. And we will have
What's it about?
It's the hidden history of New Haven. So there's some great information in here. Everyone knows the hamburger from New Haven, but things like the lollipop.
How about the pig eye trial? Do we have that?
Ooh, I'm not going to let any other secrets out about
Okay.
the book, but you'll have
We've
to
had
come,
Judge Blue on talking
please
about that. Yeah.
Come to the book talk and signing. Thank you.
Where's
Okay.
the book talk?
Yeah.
Where's it gonna be?
Trinity.
At Trinity Episcopal Church at 1:30, and it is listed in the program as part of the activities for the day.
Before we go, does anyone want to talk about a moment you'll never forget being on the New Haven Green? Doesn't have to be the only one. One of my favorite ones, walking home, and I was in a hurry on Friday because sundown was early for the Sabbath. I heard this amazing singing coming from a bench. And these 3 guys who just hang out all the time doing doo-wop apocalypse, and they put a video of it on the Independent. It was really fun to meet them and realizing just it wasn't an official concert or anything. I felt like that was sort of the random encounters I love. And I love the Christmas tree. I've spent many times where you're just alone there at night, bathed by all that light with all the colors on it.
And one of my special memories is during our immigration portrait exhibit last summer throughout the Green, we were warned that these won't last more than a week. They'll be defaced. And over the next month, I noticed that those who frequent the green on a daily basis became our best ambassadors, telling visitors what the portrait actually meant.
Well, Andy, do you think that's a way, because that makes me think of a larger point about the green. I think every day the green is an affirmation of civil society, of our ability to live together productively against our fears and our preconceptions that fester when we don't join in a common place.
Exactly. It's the social contract we have with each other.
Yeah. Any other favorite memories of the green, Richard? The one time you didn't get the key, but then you found it under the fountain.
And I'm not going to talk about the time we hung the United Nations flag upside down on the flagpole. And nobody noticed. But that, no, we were doing a von Steuben musket demonstration on the green in our red uniforms. And we were coming back to our cars, and there were a number of people sleeping on the green. There happened to be the Grateful Dead playing in New Haven. So I'm just getting to my car, which is right, near the green, and all of a sudden this VW bus stops, and this girl gets out and says, "Oh my God, Paul Revere and the Raiders opening up for the Grateful Dead."
That is a great memory.
I didn't have the heart to tell her we weren't. I said, "Yeah, I'm Mark Lindsay, the lead singer."
So to this day, everyone thinks that was they. Anybody else have a memory?
I think, for me.
Let's give David the mic there.
And it was really emblematic of both the intersection of art and community was the Metropolitan Opera concert that took place in the green. There were people that completely covered the green and went beyond, and people from all walks of life. And it was just a great example of, again, the intersection of art and community, to your point. People felt comfortable, they were happy, they were dancing, they were listening. It was just a magical evening.
It was a magical evening. I'm thinking about spontaneity and how people, who knows who, find the green to be a resource and a source of inspiration. One of our great big blizzards made this green really deep in snow. And some creative person got out there and with much labor made pyramids. And those pyramids stood there in all of this snow saying, "We can have fun."
All right, I love that one. Let's end on that. But let's also remind people this Saturday all day, there's going to be great stuff to do on the New Haven Green, and you can find out all about it with the Wake Up New Haven, Wake Up the Green event. And I guess the best website to find the info?
Friends of the Green.
Friends of the Green. Okay. I want to thank
Facebook page.
I want to thank Janet Arterton, Jerry Moores, Richard, your last name again? Renault, Christy Haas-Degleski, the great Andy Wolf, and Dave Newton. Thank you so much for telling us all about what's going on the green and beyond New Haven this weekend and every weekend. Thanks to everyone who listened in, sending questions. Thanks to the miraculous Harry Droz doing all the controls and getting us out in cyberspace and FM and everywhere else where you're hearing us. And thanks to Yale New Haven Hospital for providing support for today's program. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience, performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free from the group CD, A Plea for Peace. This is Paul Bass inviting you to fly free with us all day and all night at WNHH, your home for community radio.